Here's something nobody warned you about. The reason your relationships keep failing might have nothing to do with the people you're choosing. It might have everything to do with a woman you haven't lived with in years, maybe decades. Your mother. Now, before you close this video, before you tell yourself, my relationship with my mom is fine, or I've already dealt with that, let me ask you something. Why do you attract the same type of person over and over? Why does every relationship eventually hit the same wall? Why do you feel like you're working so hard to make things work while everyone else seems to do it effortlessly? What if I told you there's an invisible script running in the background of every relationship you have? A script you didn't write, a script you don't even know you're following. A script that was handed to you before you could speak, before you could walk, before you even knew what love was supposed to feel like. That script, it's called the mother wound. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how it's been controlling your relationships without you realizing it, how it's been sabotaging your connections, how it's been keeping you stuck in patterns that feel impossible to break. Because once you see it, once you truly see it, everything changes. Real quick, if you're watching this and something is already clicking, if you're feeling that uncomfortable recognition in your chest, do me a favor right now. Hit subscribe, give this video a like, and drop one word in the comments: seen. Because that's what the mother wound does. It keeps you invisible. It keeps you performing. It keeps you trying to earn love instead of just receiving it. And this community, we're done being invisible. Now let's dive in. So what exactly is the mother wound? It's not about whether your mother was good or bad. It's not about blame. It's not even necessarily about what she did or didn't do. The mother wound is the collection of unmet emotional needs, learned patterns, and inherited beliefs that get passed down through the maternal line. It's the gap between the mother you needed and the mother you had. And that gap, no matter how small or how large, shapes everything about how you relate to people. Think of it this way. Your mother was your first teacher about love, about connection, about whether you're worthy of care, about what relationships look like, about what you have to do to be accepted. And whatever she taught you, whether she meant to or not, became your blueprint, your operating system, the lens through which you see every relationship that comes after. If she was emotionally available, attuned, consistent, you learned that connection is safe, that your needs matter, that love doesn't have to be earned. But if she was critical, distant, conditional, overwhelmed, or unavailable, you learned something very different. You learned that love is something you have to work for, that your needs are burdensome, that showing your real self leads to rejection, that relationships require constant performance and monitoring to maintain. And here's the thing that nobody talks about. Even if your mother loved you, even if she tried her best, even if she never meant to hurt you, you can still have a mother wound. Because the wound isn't just about her actions. It's about what you needed at a developmental stage and what you actually received. And if there was a mismatch, even a small one, that mismatch became a wound. Now, let's talk about something important. The mother wound is different from the father wound. The father wound often shows up around worth and achievement, around feeling like you have to prove yourself, around authority and power and whether you're enough in the world. The mother wound shows up around connection and belonging, around whether you're lovable, around emotional safety and intimacy, and whether your needs are acceptable. Both are real, both are damaging, but they operate differently. The mother wound specifically impacts how you do closeness, how you trust, how you allow yourself to be seen, how you navigate emotional intimacy, how you respond when someone gets too close or when someone pulls away. Because your mother was supposed to teach you that emotional needs are okay, that vulnerability is safe, that you can be your authentic self and still be loved. And if she couldn't teach you that, for whatever reason, you're navigating adult relationships without that foundation. You're trying to build intimacy on quicksand. Let's get specific about how this shows up in your relationships, because this isn't theoretical. This is playing out in your life right now. Pattern number 1, people-pleasing. You say yes when you mean no. You prioritize everyone else's comfort over your own. You can sense what someone needs before they even say it, and you immediately adjust yourself to provide it. This isn't kindness. This is a survival strategy. When you were a child, you learned that your mother's emotional state mattered more than yours. Maybe she was overwhelmed and you learned to not add to her burden. Maybe she was critical and you learned to be perfect to avoid her disappointment. Maybe she was volatile and you learned to manage her moods to keep yourself safe. You became an expert at reading her, at anticipating her needs, at making yourself smaller so she could be more comfortable. And now you're doing that with everyone. Your partner, your friends, your boss, strangers on the internet. You're so busy managing everyone else's emotional experience that you've completely lost touch with your own. You don't even know what you want anymore because you're so conditioned to figure out what others want and become that. This is exhausting, and it's also why your relationships feel one-sided, because you're giving from a wound, not from wholeness. And people can sense that. They can sense that your generosity comes with an invisible price tag. Please don't leave me. Please think I'm good. Please validate that I'm worthy. Pattern number 2, you choose emotionally unavailable people. This one sounds counterintuitive. Why would you keep choosing people who can't meet your needs when you desperately want connection? Because it's familiar. If your mother was emotionally unavailable, whether she was physically present but emotionally absent, or whether she was so consumed by her own pain that she couldn't attune to yours, you learned that love looks like longing, that connection means working hard for scraps of attention, that intimacy involves constantly trying to reach someone who's just out of reach. Your nervous system was wired in an environment of emotional scarcity, so emotional abundance feels foreign, suspicious, like it can't be trusted. You keep choosing people who recreate the original dynamic. I'm here, showing up, trying my best, and they're there, just out of reach, confirming that I'm not quite enough to make them stay. Pattern number 3, you can't handle conflict. When disagreements arise in your relationship, you either shut down completely or you explode. There's no middle ground. Why? Because conflict with your mother wasn't safe. Either she couldn't tolerate your anger, so you learned to suppress it, or she exploded at the slightest disagreement, so you learned that conflict means catastrophe. You never learned that two people can have different needs and both be okay, that you can be angry with someone and still love them, that disagreement doesn't mean the relationship is ending. So now, when your partner says, "We need to talk," your nervous system treats it like a 5-alarm fire. You'll do anything to avoid it. You'll minimize your needs. You'll apologize for things that aren't your fault. You'll agree to things you actually don't agree with. Or you'll do the opposite. You'll escalate immediately. Because conflict means the relationship is ending anyway, so you might as well get it over with. Either way, you can't stay present and regulated through disagreement, because nobody ever showed you that was possible. Pattern number 4, you're terrified of being too much. You monitor yourself constantly. How much can I share before it's too much? How much can I need before I'm needy? How much can I feel before I'm being dramatic? You've learned to portion out your humanity, to ration your needs, to apologize for taking up space. This comes from having a mother who couldn't handle the full reality of you. Maybe she needed you to be happy, so she felt like a good mother. Maybe she needed you to be independent, so she didn't feel overwhelmed. Maybe she needed you to be successful, so she could feel proud. Whatever her need was, you learned to contort yourself to meet it. And the parts of you that didn't fit, the messy parts, the needy parts, the parts that just wanted to be held without having to be anything special, those parts got pushed down, hidden, treated as shameful evidence of your inherent too-muchness. Now you're in relationships where you're constantly managing how much of yourself you reveal, always gauging, always adjusting, always trying to be just enough to be loved, but not so much that you're rejected. This is why intimacy feels terrifying. Because real intimacy requires showing all of you, and you've spent your entire life learning that all of you is unacceptable. Here's where this gets even deeper. You're not just repeating your own mother wound. You're repeating patterns that go back generations. Your mother had a mother, and her mother had a mother, and the wounds, the beliefs, the strategies for survival, they get passed down through the maternal line like heirlooms nobody asked for. This is what's meant by ancestral or generational trauma. The idea that trauma doesn't just affect the person who experiences it, it affects their children and their children's children. There's actual science behind this now. It's called epigenetics, the study of how experiences can literally change which genes get expressed and how those changes can be inherited. Studies on Holocaust survivors showed that their descendants, people who never experienced the Holocaust themselves, had measurable changes in their stress response systems. The trauma their grandparents experienced actually altered their biology. The same is true for the mother wound. Your mother's unmet needs, her survival strategies, her relationship to her own mother, all of that lives in you, not just psychologically, biologically. You might be carrying fears that don't even make sense for your life, hypervigilance that seems disproportionate to your actual circumstances, responses that feel too big for the situation. That's because you're not just responding to what's happening now. You're responding to what happened to your mother and what happened to her mother and what happened to hers. The wound echoes backward through time. So what do you do with this information? First, you have to stop trying to logic your way out of patterns that are stored in your body and nervous system. You can understand intellectually that you have a mother wound. You can recognize the patterns. You can see how they're playing out in your relationships. But understanding doesn't heal it because the wound isn't in your conscious mind. It's in your nervous system, in the way your body responds to closeness and distance, in the automatic reactions that happen before you even have time to think. Healing the mother wound requires 3 levels of work. Level 1, cognitive understanding. This is where you are right now, recognizing the pattern, naming it, seeing how it's been running your life. This is important. You can't heal what you can't see, but awareness alone won't change the pattern. Level 2, emotional processing. This is where you actually feel the feelings you've been avoiding your whole life. The grief about what you didn't get, the anger about what you deserved but never received, the sadness about the mother you needed but didn't have. You have to let yourself feel these things, not just think about them. Actually feel them in your body. Cry the tears, scream into pillows. Let the emotions move through you instead of staying trapped inside you. This is uncomfortable. It's why most people stay stuck at level 1. but you can't think your way to healing. You have to feel your way. Level 3, somatic repatterning. This is where you teach your nervous system new responses, where you practice being in relationships differently, where you slowly, carefully learn that connection can be safe, that your needs are acceptable, that you can be yourself and still be loved. This happens in therapy, in conscious relationships, in communities where you're actually seen and valued, in practices that regulate your nervous system, somatic experiencing, EMDR, breath work, any modality that works with the body, not just the mind. It happens through corrective experiences, moments where you expect rejection and receive acceptance instead, where you brace for criticism and get compassion, where you prepare to be too much and someone says, "You're exactly right." These moments create new neural pathways, new possibilities, new templates for what relationships can be. Now, let me tell you the most important thing about healing the mother wound. You don't need your mother to change for you to heal. This is crucial because so many people stay stuck waiting for their mother to acknowledge what happened, to apologize, to finally see them the way they needed to be seen. And maybe that will happen. Maybe your mother will do her own healing work and your relationship will transform, but maybe it won't. Maybe she can't. Maybe she's too defended, too wounded herself, too unable to face what she couldn't give you. Your healing cannot be contingent on her changing. You have to grieve the mother you needed and accept the mother you have. You have to stop waiting for her to fill the gap and start learning to fill it yourself. This is what reparenting means. Becoming the attuned, compassionate, unconditionally accepting presence for yourself that you didn't receive from her. It's not the same as having had it in the first place. It's not a perfect substitute, but it's real and it's available, and it's actually the only way through. Here's what starts to change when you do this work. You stop choosing the same type of person over and over because you're not trying to heal the original wound through them anymore. You're healing it yourself. You can tolerate someone being actually available because availability doesn't feel threatening anymore. It feels like what you deserve. You can have conflict without it feeling like the end of the world because you've learned that you can be angry and still be connected, that disagreement doesn't equal abandonment. You can show more of yourself, the messy parts, the needy parts, the parts that aren't performing or perfect, because you've started to believe that those parts are acceptable too. You stop people-pleasing, not all at once, not perfectly, but gradually you learn that your needs matter as much as anyone else's, that saying no doesn't make you selfish, that disappointing someone doesn't make you unlovable. Your relationships become more reciprocal because you're no longer giving from a wound trying to earn love. You're giving from choice, from overflow, from genuine care, and you're also receiving, actually receiving. This is what's possible. Not perfect, not healed once and done, but different, substantially, meaningfully different. Now, let me be clear about something. This work is hard. There will be moments where you want to give up, where you think, this is too much, I'd rather just stay how I am, where the familiar pain feels easier than the discomfort of change. There will be moments where you regress, where you fall back into old patterns, where you choose the emotionally unavailable person again, or people please until you're exhausted, or shut down when someone tries to get close. That's part of the process. That's not failure. That's just what healing looks like. Messy, non-linear, 2 steps forward and 1 step back. The difference is now you know. Now you can see the pattern while you're in it. Now you can make a different choice, even if it takes you 3 tries instead of 1. Now you have compassion for yourself instead of just criticism, because you understand that these patterns were survival strategies, that they kept you safe when you were small and powerless, that they're not character flaws, they're adaptations to circumstances you didn't choose. And understanding that, really understanding that, changes everything. So here's what I want you to do. Stop blaming yourself for the relationships that haven't worked. Stop telling yourself there's something wrong with you because you keep choosing the same type of person or hitting the same walls. There's nothing wrong with you. You're responding to a wound you didn't create. You're operating from a template you didn't design. You're trying to build healthy relationships without ever being taught what healthy looks like. That's not your fault. But it is your responsibility now. Your responsibility to see the pattern, to do the work, to heal what was passed down to you so you don't pass it down to the next generation. This is how generational trauma ends, not by pretending it didn't happen, not by minimizing the impact, but by facing it, feeling it, processing it, and choosing something different. You can be the one who breaks the cycle, the one who says, the mother wound ends with me. I'm going to heal this. I'm going to learn what love actually looks like. I'm going to build relationships based on truth instead of performance, on acceptance instead of control, on connection instead of control. That's what's possible when you do this work. Not just better relationships with other people, but a better relationship with yourself. Finally feeling at home in your own skin. Finally believing you're worthy without having to prove it. Finally accepting that you can be loved for who you are, not just for who you pretend to be. That's the truth the mother wound tried to hide from you. That's the truth you get to reclaim now. If this video helped you see something you've been living inside of without recognizing it, share it with someone who needs to hear this, someone who's been struggling in relationships and blaming themselves when the real issue is a wound they didn't even know they were carrying. Leave a comment. Tell me which pattern you recognized. Let me know what clicked for you. And remember, the mother wound is real. The damage is real. But so is the possibility of healing. You're not broken, you're wounded, and wounds can heal. This is how it starts.